Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org. Consequence and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, for checking out the episode. Please do hit that subscribe button. That way you get 3 brand new interviews sent to you every single week. Doing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday makes it a great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover those new ones. Of course, you can grab us like Spotify, Apple Podcast. You can get us at NPR, WFPK.org, Consequence, or right here on YouTube for the video versions. Really, anywhere you get your podcast from, subscribe to Kyle Meredith with. And that's me, Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Chardae Robinson. We're going to be talking about Palm Royale, which is out now on Apple TV+. This is the, I'm going to read the synopsis here, the true underdog story that follows Maxine Simmons, played by Kristen Wiig, as she endeavors to break into the Palm Beach high society as Maxine attempts to cross that impermeable line between the haves and the have-nots. Palm Royale asks the same question that still baffles us today. How much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice to get what someone else already has? It's set during the powder keg year of 1969. Palm Royale is a testament to every outsider fighting for their chance to truly belong. Amber, she plays this character, Virginia, and we're going to dig into hearing about how really her part of the story, it represents a lot of the big topics that the show tackles. Feminism, rather, privilege is in it, but also told through comedy. This is a comedy show, but again, with big subjects. I want to hear about some of these specific episodes. There's a really great arc in these episodes 5, 6, and 7. If you've caught those yet, Amber really gets to shine in these. So we're going to hear about that. We're going to hear about the tone of the show. Sometimes, I mean, you really never know what's coming in the show. I want to hear about acting opposite someone like Kristen Wiig and how she keeps her composure on some of these lines, these amazing scripts, really, as they say, really juicy, really juicy lines. I almost said chewy in there as well. I guess that both work. Let's do it. Let's get into this. We're talking Palm Royale. It's Kyle Meredith with Chardae Robinson.
You too, how are you?
It's been so fun watching this season of Palm Royale and everything you've been a part of. I was thinking, of course, as with any project that, you get to be a part of, anybody gets to be a part of, you shoot it so far back, time happens.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun actually getting to talk to you in the middle of the season, because have you been watching it? Do you keep up in that way in real time with everybody else?
Okay, yes and no. Sometimes, my nervous system can't handle it. Like, I'm like, everybody is watching this at the same time. So I was lucky enough to be able to see the first 5 episodes before they came out. And this was like before they cut it all together. There was still like green screens and things in the background. And so episode 6, I was like, okay, let me just go ahead on and watch it, because a couple of my castmates was like, you need to watch this episode. It's amazing. And so I turned it on, and from beginning to end, I was just bawling, because not only is the episode very, very like heart-wrenching, but just watching all of the elements come together, like the artwork, and it was just amazing to see. I was like, this is a really good show. And everybody's like, yeah. And I was like, well, when you're in something, you kind of like, your awareness is a little different than everybody else's. So it's just really cool to see it in its full glory. It's such a beautiful show.
Yeah, are you able to separate?
Kind of like, I'll watch, and when I watch those first 5 episodes, it's the reason why I didn't watch all 10, is because watching myself sometimes feels like fresh hell. And you're like, why'd you make that decision? You did that with your lips. You did that with your eyes. Why would you look over there? But when I'm watching everybody else, I have to step outside myself and be like, well, when I'm watching Kristin and Laura, I'm not thinking about, oh, their hand went here. I was like, so people aren't actually watching it with a critical eye like you are. So you have to take that hat off and try to enjoy the show. To try to be present.
Because it's a very fun show. It's a very fun show. And it's interesting, because I remember when I went into it pretty blind, I guess, and just kind of taking it as it comes. And I remember those first couple episodes going, what is this?
Yeah. Where are we? What's gonna happen? It does a good job of leaving you on the cliffhanger. As for me, when I read, we got the episodes as we were shooting them. So you get episode 1, and then you shoot it. Then you get episode 2. So I'm reading, and as I'm reading the scripts as they come in, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, what now? And then when we got to episode 10, I was like, oh my God, what now? Like, I can't wait for you guys to see the end. It's such a good show. And I was just so caught off guard every week going into work. I was like, okay, well, this is happening. And now being able to watch it is like, oh, wow, look how they put all that together. It's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What happens now, by the way? Yeah, by the end. And that's what happens now.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's like, even backing up, like, and I do want to hit on like episode 5, right? Like, you really get to have fun on that 5th episode. What did I write down? Like, Watergate Scooby-Doo, or Scooby-Doo what?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. It was
And
really
that's
fun. I felt like between 5 and 6 and 7, those were like the funnest episodes to shoot, especially the funeral scene, despite it being so heavy. Everybody was on set that day. And it's kind of rare when you have so many people in a cast for us to all be in one spot. So it was a really, really, really heightened, fun day. It was hot that day. We were outside. We had our little fans. We just had a good time shooting those episodes.
Yeah, because up until that point, right, like they'd kept the two social groups separate, like completely
Yeah.
separate.
Even when we were shooting, it was almost like I was actually living this life. Like, there were moments where Kristin would come in and I was like, oh, she has on yellow today. That's nice. And I was like, I like those heels in my mind as Amber, not as Virginia. But I'm like, they were living a completely different life over there compared to us. Even in how we're dressed, like the colors, we're in earth tones and they're in the pastels. It's just a completely different world.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that world. I know you've done some of that in the past with these interviews, but I'd love to hear, like, for this being set in the period it's set in the, it was 60s, right? Like 60s. Like, what does that offer? What does that offer you as an actor?
It offers me like a little insight into that time period, which I think is so cool to experience. I mean, as for Black people, it was a very specific time. So to be able to be in this environment and be a Black woman and be a voice for us is so important to me. It's another reason why I signed up to do this show. Because it's really hard for African American women to see themselves in the feminist movement in 2024, let alone 1969. I was like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Because me, myself, I struggle with feeling included in that movement today. So I'm like, I can only imagine how I would feel in 1969. So for me, it was a journey.
Yeah. Well, so how did you get that mindset then? I mean, is that research? I mean, because a lot of this feels very natural, and I'm sure a lot of it would be natural.
Mm-hmm.
But like, to, as you're saying, you're learning this as you're going. Like, how did you get into that? What would it have been like at that moment?
I think it's about Virginia is what people like to call the moral compass of the show. I like to think of her as somebody who lives in reality. You know, as a Black person, we're born into this reality. Whereas people like in the high society, they get to choose what kind of life they want to live. And being a Black woman in 1969, I have to live in what's real for me, what's actually happening in front of me, and how people are actually treating me. And so looking at how they chose to live their lives and the reality that they got to choose really grinded my gears as a Black woman. Even when I read the script, I was like, like, so it wasn't hard for me to be like, I'm gonna live in reality while y'all live in the fairy tale land, because I don't have a choice. I don't have that privilege to look outside of myself and be like, I'm gonna go join the country club and live this kind of life. No, I have to live what is given to me, what's laid out for me. I don't have that option.
But and what's interesting about this role too, and as we're talking about the tone of the show, it's like, here you are, when it's the bookstore's turn, and beyond that, but especially then, there are conversations of feminism, there are conversations of patriarchy, there are conversations of racism, while doing it through comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comedy
And
is a little bit more palatable, I believe.
is right. Okay.
Yeah. It
Why
allows
is
people
that?
to sit back willingly on this ride, rather than sometimes things could be heavy handed, or a lot of people tend to turn their heads away from things because they're like, I don't want to be force fed anything. I don't, those kind of energies. But when it's served on a dish of comedy, people are like, never thought about it that way, or that's funny. Like, it opens up another portal in people's minds to be able to take in the idea of change or the idea of, you know, revolution.
Yeah, especially like there are those moments where you're talking to Laura Dern's character and you say, yeah, that wouldn't happen for me.
It wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's and I'm only echoing you here. It's like those moments where you've had this laughter and you've had these bizarre, outlandish moments, and then
Mhm.
you get a line like that and it just lands.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because
that's
the world is so specific. You know, this world is very white dominated. So for someone like me to exist in this world, the things that they are getting away with, I wouldn't dare even get the opportunity to go steal from your dead daddy at his own funeral. It's just not happening.
that line. I'm not robbing your dead daddy at his own funeral.
Not doing it.
And what's the other line? I'm gonna go ahead and try this one. I don't consider myself with the shenanigans of
No,
vapid.
baby poods.
Like those lines. Like,
Real.
were there any lines? I mean, how was it to deliver that? Like, is it easy? Like, do you have any trouble delivering any of these lines in these moments?
No, because the circumstances are so similar to how I think in those moments anyway. So sitting there with Kristen and her like, oh my God, you know, when. I'm like, there are bigger fish to fry out here. Like, they not letting us drink out the same water fountains. There are other things that are going on. Like, we just came off the heels of the civil rights movement. Like, and you're worried about apples and oranges. There's bigger things to be worried about here. So it wasn't hard for me to be like, girl, whatever. Like, it's a wake-up call, really. I think Virginia's the alarm clock in this situation.
Right. I will say you were obviously a professional at this, and when I see those scenes and I hear those lines and I see your scene partners, which Kristen Wiig and the faces that she makes, like that's the moments like, how in the world is she holding this together and pulling this off?
You should be asking us because that lady is a comedic genius. There were moments where me and Laura Dern are sitting across from Kristen Wiig and we have to turn our heads away from the camera because she is so funny. There were moments where they would let her improv and we would be like, mm-mm, mm-mm. I can't look at her. I literally cannot look at her because she takes it so seriously, but it's the most absurd things that are coming out of her mouth. It is hilarious. She's such a professional.
You all do a really nice job with each other. I mean, and the balance is all there. And it is interesting seeing the two groups because they are both social groups. So
Right.
even in all these differences, I think, but they're still social groups in Palm Beach. You know, maybe it's West Palm Beach or
Yeah.
whatever. Like we see the difference, but do you think of them in that similar way? Like you're really just two sides of a coin in some matters, I guess.
Yeah. I think there, like I said earlier, there's an opportunity for them to be social, but also turn a blind eye to certain things because they have that privilege to do so.
Mhm.
Whereas someone who looks like me, I have to consider everybody. I have to consider for my survival, for my own survival in this environment. I have no choice. I can't turn a blind eye here, which is, I think that builds the resentment between the two. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, there's still a lot of mystery with Virginia that's being set up. So
I
right.
love that. I love it. And I love that people are like actually seeing that aspect of it. So it's really exciting.
Yeah. I also want to point out, what was I reading? Like, in the song Black Melt, like you've actually got a musical theme that's been assigned to you.
Yeah, we all do, which I thought
Right.
was really cool. I was like, oh, wow. I found out on Instagram like a week or two ago. I was like, oh, I love this. And every week, the composer, he like puts out different songs for different things. And I'm glad he's doing that because there's so much music within the show, like especially the funeral scene when Bruce Dern dies. I'm like, what is that song? It was so specific and it encapsulated that moment so well. It's
Yeah.
just really good work.
Now, outside of the score, and it's a on the spot question right here, so apologies, but if you've got a theme song for Virginia Mind, like this is her power song, what do you think it's going to be?
The thing that's been bopping around in my mind is I heard it through the grapevine by what's his name? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I heard it through the grapevine. Is
Yeah,
that
it's Marvin Gaye, right? It's Marvin Gaye. Yeah,
Marvin
it's with the group, but yeah,
Gaye? Yeah. Because she hears and sees everything.
yeah,
And she is like, to me, Virginia has a lot of power to take these people down, you know, in the grand scheme of things. And she knows more than what people think she knows. and she's way more equipped than what they think she is. She's overqualified to be in this environment. Let's just say that.
I like that song choice. I do like that song choice.
Yeah.
I'll wrap up because I know you got some other things going on too. What was I seeing? Black Cypress Bayou. Are you done with that?
Yeah, I just wrapped the play that we ended March 17th. We were at the Geffen Playhouse here in LA. It's a
Yeah.
really cool experience. It was really nice to be back on stage and to do a play, because it's nothing like feeling that energy from the audience every night and being able to like live in a character for a specific amount of time. Really, really good time.
Yeah.
A blessing.
Yeah, congrats on that. And
Thank
I
you.
also caught one of the other interviews you were doing. Somebody asked you if you could go back, and you were talking about the Harlem Renaissance period.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, like, I would love to see you as well in something like that. Why did you pick that one?
Because that was a time for people who look like me and people who I feel like I'm like a great grandbaby of that era. Like I lived in New York. I'm an artist. I lived in that community. So to be able to go back and be with some of the great people that we look at their work today, like James Baldwin and Langston Hughes, and to be around them while they're in this mode of creativity, this energy of creativity, would be such one hell of an experience. Like, uh, you would learn. I feel like I would just let me just touch the hem of Langston Hughes' garment real quick, like just to give me some of that good creative energy. Like it's just such a cool time for Black folks and artists at that time. Music, television, dancers, all of that. It was such a great period. I mean, it wasn't great as far as like socially and society, but as far as creativity goes, it was a huge moment for us.
Yeah, great music. I've spent a lot of time listening
Yeah.
to the jazz era stuff that came out of that. I'd
Yes.
love to see you in that role. In the meantime, Palm Royale was so good, and it's so much fun to watch all of you all go on these adventures and develop and the twists and turns. Congrats on the season, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week, new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.